So, good afternoon and welcome to another technical analysis update. I hope you guys are okay. There's been a big correction in the market, so I hope you guys are okay after this. And I hope you had a nice weekend nonetheless. Today is the 13th of June 2022, and a date that I expect we will remember for a very long time. And it's just coming up to midday here in the UK. So I'll do the usual checks first and just check that the audio is working and that the video is working too, which everything seems to be working fine. So let's crack on. So you can see here basically on the screen we've got the cryptocurrency heat map, and you can see that the great majority of crypto is in the red. There's very few that are in the green or neutral, apart from the stable coins that are in the neutral, and there's a few here in the green. I'm not entirely sure how or why, but you can see that the great majority has had a very ample correction, particularly here on Ethereum, that's corrected more or less around about 15% for today. So like I said, I hope you guys are okay and that you weren't overexposed for this. Over at the stock market, you can see that there's also a very large correction across the board, and again just a very few exceptions here in the green, mostly on the consumer non-durables, but the great majority, like I said, is in the red. Now, if you don't know why this has happened, the CPI print, which is basically the consumer price inflation print, came out last week, late last week on Friday, and it was a little bit higher than what was expected. And as such, it just kind of reflects on the Federal Reserve, that they perhaps are not doing enough to contain inflation, which is their mandate. So as a result of that, the markets have priced in a little bit of a higher interest rate hike, which they announced last month that it was about 50 basis points. And with the inflation print coming out a little bit higher, the market is priced in for a potential 75 basis points hike, which is not what is announced. What was announced was 50. So basically the markets are now expecting a, by and large, a more hawkish Federal Reserve, or a little bit more sort of aggressive, if you like, in an attempt to contain inflation. And yeah, if you expected the last week to be the be-all and end-all of volatility in the markets, well, you're mistaken, because this week it looks even worse. So let's just highlight the calendar here. So as you can see, we've got the calendar for this week, and we've got quite a few important dates here. Tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. We've got the PPI. We've also got on Wednesday the FOMC economic projections, and also the FOMC statement, the federal funds rate, and the press conference, all happening on Wednesday, okay, from 1:30 p.m. here in the UK. So I think that's around about 12:30 UTC. Also, we've got some things coming out in the UK here on Thursday, which is the official bank rate votes, the monetary policy summary, and the official bank rate. Additionally, there's also the manufacturing index, unemployment claims from the United States, and then of course we've got the chairman of the Federal Reserve speaking on Friday at 1:45, which is highlighted here. Okay, so you can see that all in all, a pretty volatile week ahead of us, and this could cause even more unpredictable price behavior in the markets. So let's just have a quick look at what happened last week as a result of that print. So we start here with a 3-day chart, and you can see really that the markets kind of like took a tumble here. We were way up there. It took a tumble down to the downside, and we kind of like lost this low volume area here around about the 4,000 point mark, and as a result of that, the price just traveled very, very quickly through this low volume area. Like I said, that's usually how it plays out, because there's hardly any liquidity there. So the price traveled very quickly, and it is continuing down to the downside. Now we are definitely inside of this high volume cluster now, and you can see here this green line that I've got here highlighted. You can see it's basically just on the edge of this ledge here, of this shelf, if you like, of this high volume cluster. So if you could determine the edge of this high volume cluster around about there, that's where that green line is, and I expect the price to find a little bit of support, even if it's just temporarily there. You can see here as well that there's hardly any volume here. Okay, there's a very high, a low volume node just here, right, around about 3,600 points, which is where I've got this blue dotted line here. And so you could argue that in fact this is a much larger distribution, and even though there is a shelf there in the middle, which is that green line, that the real edge is here, down here. Okay, so around about 3,600 points. So it could potentially carry on going down all the way to this edge here. And you can see here that we've got yet another volume cluster there. All right, so this could potentially be where we're going next, or we could potentially bounce here and then just found a little bit of a sort of a ranging scenario here until those meetings occur. The truth of the matter is that now we're inside of this high volume cluster. This circle that we've got above here, the low volume area, is now resistance. Okay, what was previously support is now resistance. You can see that we've bounced in this area here before on this green dotted line, and that's exactly where we are right now. So we could potentially see a bounce there as well again, you know. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, and we'll have to wait and see if volatility is going to affect that. Here on the daily chart, I'd already posted this on Friday when I did the last technical analysis update. I did say that if we'd lost that red line, that we could potentially find a little range here inside, which I highlighted with this little arrow here. Okay, or if we see a much deeper correction, that we could potentially see a range down here. That's exactly where we are right now. We're inside of this range here. And then we'll have to wait and see if this red line is now resistance, or if indeed this orange line is going to be resistance. And so what that means is basically, is the range the whole thing here, or is it just until here, until the orange line? Okay, so we'll just have to see how that pans out. Okay, but ideally what you want to see is, we want to see a test of that resistance really, and just to confirm that it is indeed resistance. So that would be a little bit of a relief bounce coming all the way up to here. Of course, at this level here, then I expect to find resistance there, unless something very cool happens and the Federal Reserve decides to start printing money again, which, you know, in technical terms is not really a very cool thing to do at all, but it would definitely cause a little bit of relief in the markets. So that's what I'm seeing here on the S&P. So as you can see, guys, we're testing this area of support. If we lose that, then this one here will be the next level of support, which is that 3,600 points that I was highlighting down here, this low volume area down here. Okay, so just to recap again, basically considering this whole thing as one large volume cluster. Okay, so potentially we could see the price coming all the way down there, but I do expect this ledge here, this shelf if you like, to act as a little bit of support, and we could see a little bounce there. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see for that. So obviously resistance, I've already told you what the levels are. Support, I've already told you what the levels are, and so we'll just have to wait and see how this pans out. Okay, over on the Nasdaq, not quite as dramatic, but still we tapped that level of resistance here perfectly, and the market just turned to the downside and followed everything else basically. And this low volume area here, which is basically where the orange line was, or this yellow line if you like, didn't even stand a chance, and we just kind of traveled straight through, including through this green line here that I had highlighted. And the reason I highlighted that is because I think it's something to do with the value area high. It is indeed. So let me just correct this a minute. It's the value area. No, it's not. It's actually, just bear me a second. Yes, it is. It's the value area high of the 2020 VWAP close. Okay, so that's the area that I was expecting for us to find a little bounce. But in context, when you look at this here in terms of volume cluster, you can see that this distribution does go all the way down to here, to this level, which has a little bit of confluence with the 2020 VWAP close. Okay, so I think we could potentially see a much lower a much deeper correction, if you like, all the way down to 10,400 points or something thereby. Yeah, so basically we're looking at this low volume area here, around about 10,000 points, 10,400 for a potential bounce here if we cannot regain this green dotted line. Okay, so as you can see here on the daily chart, that line that I just put there, which is around about here, is basically where this green line is. And like I said, we've lost that level of support, so you know, potentially what we could be doing is going all the way down to this low volume area here, around about 10,200, 10,400 points to find support here. And then of course we'd probably find resistance up here, and if that is support and that is resistance, then we'd find ourselves in a little range there. Okay, so that's potentially what we could be seeing in sort of like going into next week. What does this mean for Bitcoin? Well, of course, it's just dragging down Bitcoin with it. Okay, so you could argue that technically we have been kind of like preempting this move for a very long time, but there was a little glimmer of hope for the bulls as we held on to the lower edge of the high volume cluster for so long. So anyway, I want to highlight something here. I've got the oldest Bitcoin chart in existence. This is the Bitstamp chart, and I've got it on a weekly time frame. Okay, so I highlighted this a little while ago, maybe even as early as when was it? It was way back in December, perhaps even January. I did that with a tweet, and I also highlighted it in the group that we just lost the 50 SMA. Okay, so this is two simple moving averages. The orange line is the 50 SMA. This is on the weekly chart, so it's the 50 weekly, and the red line is the 200 weekly. And you can see here from previous price action that every time we lose this, the 50 weekly moving average, we end up bouncing on the 200. Okay, so it's a small sample size because Bitcoin is only 10 or 11 years old. It's actually 13 years old now. Just, time flies, but yeah, so you can see that again from observation. This is like, you know, it's just an observation. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but you can see here it bounced here, for example, and then it didn't have enough strength to bounce. So when we fell below in 2018, we came back and retested that 50-week simple moving average, and then the price could just not get above it, and eventually it came down and tested the 200 weekly. Okay, so this is observed again and again, like here, for example, in the March 2020, when we lost due to the COVID thing, the COVID scare, we lost the 50. Where does the price bounce? Even though it overshot it by quite a lot, where did it bounce? It bounced exactly on the 200, right? So we can see here as well that the price bounced on the 50. It bounced on the 50 yet again and again. Okay, and eventually we lost it. Okay, so we lost it back in January or December or whatever it was. It was actually on the 20th of December, and when we lost that, we came back up, we tested that 50 weekly moving average again, and it confirmed that this is indeed resistance, not support anymore, and so we've been dumping ever since. Okay, I did highlight this. I do highlight this every month or so, and I kind of like keep a track of this. And for you guys that have been here long enough, know that this is not bullshit. I actually did highlight this, and I've got proof of that. But regardless of that, and you know, I'm not here to collect clout. This is just an observation, and like I said, that 200 simple moving average is now standing at around about $22,600, $585 to be precise here on the Bitstamp chart. Okay, so $22,600, and it looks like we're very much accelerating towards that goal there. Okay, so is this enough to want to buy there? You know, well, historically, if you're looking again from an empirical point of view, you know, from looking back, you can see that, you know, historically it's got a good record, but again, Bitcoin is only 13 years old, and we've only got like 3 times where that happened before. Okay, because again, it's a very small sample size. So that in itself is not enough for me. I need to look at a more granular view and look for confluence at those levels. So let's move on to the Bitcoin chart here, and we start here with the 3-day chart. Now, I'm just going to take the view app off for a second. And I just want to highlight something, okay? This is perhaps better seen on the daily. Now you can see I've highlighted these two consolidation areas before the pump, right? So this is just in December 2020. And you can see here that I've highlighted two areas of consolidation. So the lowest one and the middle one, right? And they're both in between two very large liquid legs, okay? This is perfectly visible here on the volume profile, on the composite volume profile, and you can see that basically this consolidation created this little node of volume here, this area, this cluster, and then this consolidation here created this cluster here, right? We've had our eye on that for quite some time. I'm going to go back to the 3-day chart and just put it, so I just wanted to highlight that. So where are we now? We're right inside of the first cluster, right? So this is somewhere between 22,275 and 23,800, something like that, or 24,000. So let's say between 22 and 24. If we look back at that chart again, where are we? Where that moving average is $22,600. So that has perfect confluence with the edge of this volume cluster here, right? $22,500. Okay, so this could potentially be, I mean, we've got a very prominent low volume area just below that. Okay, so this could potentially be support. This area here, which is also an area of low volume, had been tested before, and we're testing it now. Okay, and you can see how the price accelerates through that. I'll get to that in just a second. The price accelerates through that because there is no liquidity there. There's hardly any volume there. So like I said and mentioned before, price tends to accelerate in areas of low volume. And then in areas of balance, or areas that have got a little bit more volume, it tends to consolidate. So we could potentially see a little bit of consolidation on this level here. Now, am I telling you to buy at this level? No, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. However, if there is a place where I expect the price to kind of like slow down a little bit and perhaps find a little bit of balance, it would be here. Okay, of course we could overshoot this and go a little bit deeper and come all the way down to $19,800, okay, to this high volume cluster here, which could potentially be yet again another area of consolidation. So we'll just have to wait and see, right? But either way, this is definitely an area of consolidation here. So could we look perhaps at a lower time frame and just see if we've already tested the edge? Because as you know, when we enter a balance area, what tends to happen is we test the top edge again to see if it is indeed resistance, and then we can go and test the other side of the balance, right? So if we look at the lower time frames, let's see if we can spot that already. So for example, here on the 30-minute chart, this is the same rectangle that we looked at. The price came here and then went up to the upside, tested that edge, and now we're on our way down. So that for me on the 30-minute chart is pretty clear that we've already tested that, which has perfect confluence with the value area low of this week's VWAP, okay, of the developing week's VWAP. And I know it's just Monday, so it's only just formed, but nevertheless, it's clear and it's right there. Okay, as you can see here, spike above, rejected, boom, we go down. Okay, so I do expect the price to find a little bit of balance here between 22,400 and 24,200. Okay, so it's a $2,000 range. I wouldn't go catching like a falling knife and expecting this to just bounce off straight away. It could do, but I'd rather just wait for confirmation and wait to see the price do something like this, confirm that this is indeed now support, and then we rally. Okay, so I'd rather enter late and protect my capital than try and catch a falling knife and then just see this fall all the way through to the next balance area. So with that in mind, I just wanted to sort of highlight this on the lower time frame. So here we are again back on the higher time frames. This is the lower balance area. This is the balance area that we're in right now. And so, you know, bottoms take time. Okay, so what I expect this to do is actually go and test the lower edge of this balance. Okay, and when it tests this, hopefully we'll get a rejection and the price will bounce back up. Okay, and then we can start ranging here, and it's within that range that you get your edge to enter a trade, right? So I'm not telling you to buy or to sell. I'm just saying that as a trader, you want to see the bottom forming with a little range here and the acceleration of price stopping that momentum. Okay, only then you can start considering entering a trade. There's no point of entering a trade when it's just going like that, because it's got so much momentum. I mean, if you look at it objectively and you look at it in context with this whole thing is a large liquid move, right? So actually this here could be pretty insignificant, and the price might not stop all the way down to here, to $20,000. Okay, like I said, it's just an observation that it just so happens to be that this little volume cluster here has perfect confluence with that 200 weekly simple moving average. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see, do we form a bottom here, or are we just actually going to bounce straight here and go up? If we do bounce and we go straight up, the level that I'm looking for is this one here, $28,600. Previous level of support, largely untested as resistance. Okay, we've lost that level now. We had a weekly order block above us, okay, which is basically on the weekly chart. Like I showed you guys so many times now over the last couple of weeks, we had this little order block here, which is an area that was previously demand. It became supply. This is demand here. It worked for 3 or 4 times. And once we got below it, we tested it a couple of times here, and it confirmed that this is indeed us retesting. It's a bearish retest, if you like. And this is now a supply area. However, showing you on the 3-day chart, or perhaps even on the daily chart, you can see that this is a previous level of support. Support, support, there we go, and eventually we broke through it. So even if we do break out of this area, and we break out with quite a lot of violence because there's hardly any volume there, I do expect this area here to still be the line in the sand, $28,600. Okay, if we break above this, then fantastic. That means that we could potentially retest that weekly order block, and with enough strength and momentum, we might even smash that. But I wouldn't rely on that so much. I mean, we've tested it quite a few times, so it's probably weakened now. But you know, the price is at an imbalance, and we're looking for buyers. Okay, so will we find the buyers on this balance area here, or we will have to go all the way down to around about, you know, to $20,000 to find those buyers? That's the big question right there. Okay, so again, regardless if we've just bounced here, it doesn't mean that we're going to the moon. You know, this level here will still be 28.6, will still be very strong resistance. However, it would be nice to catch this little bounce from here. Okay, for me, I don't want to catch a falling knife. I'd much rather see a bottom forming like this. If I don't get that, and we just get a nice little wick to the upside with that volatility incoming this week, then so be it. I'm quite happy to just wait for my short position, and I'll just take a short at these highs here. Okay, so that's the game plan for for this week. I hope that is clear. Let's have a quick look at Exocharts, and I hope everybody's clear on that. If you've got any questions, please do ask. Like I said, I just want to recap. We could go as far as $20,000. Okay, so there's no point in rushing here. Okay, but we are in the middle of nowhere. There's no volume there, and there's no volume below. Okay, so it's only natural to expect the price to become balanced inside it, you know, to become stuck there. Now, here it'll be engineering liquidity, and it could be engineering liquidity for the downside or for the upside. The potential catalyst for a larger move out of this balance area could indeed be this week, all of the things that are coming out with the calendar that I showed you earlier, right? So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Hopefully we will range here for quite some time, and we'll have a little bit of a slowdown. But like I said, if there's an important catalyst or some good news coming out of the Federal Reserve where they decide they just want to print fucking money again, then of course this could just bounce and go all the way to that resistance at 28,500 again, 28,600. So anyway, that's the game plan for this week. I hope you guys are all right after this is a nasty move to the downside. This reminds me a little bit of the $6,000 level, this level here, $6,000 in 2018. We kind of bounced like this, and it got slower and slower and lower and lower, and eventually everybody thought this is unbeatable, this support is like, it's never going to break, and then eventually the price just went boom all the way down to $3,000. So this reminds me a little bit of that. But yeah, nevertheless, let's move on to Exocharts, and I will start with the volume profiles because the daily profiles are a little bit wrecked right now. So we start with the monthly, and you can see here on the monthly, I'm going to delete this balance. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that. Okay, you can see that we've, you know, by and large, we've lost kind of like the big volume cluster that we've had for the whole of this year. For the last sort of 12 months or so, we've got a naked point of control here around about 19,150. Okay, you can see here that it's an area that's got a little bit more volume there, so potentially we could find support there around about $19,000 if we do indeed go all the way down. That area of consolidation, you can note here, is basically where we are right now, and you can see the volume there in this very tiny little node there inside of this profile of the month of December 2020, and that's basically where we are right now. Okay, so the question is, will we hold there or will we go much lower? So you can see that we've got a naked point of control for the month is 19,150. So pretty similar to what I was telling you on the candlesticks, but I've just showed you a naked point of control. That's the only difference. Now the monthly point of control is 19,100. Now here I've got a weekly volume profile, and I've got basically the volume profile drawn for the whole before the pump, you know, for the whole area before. And you can see here again an area of high volume, which is basically where we are right now, right? And we've got the low volume area somewhere like that, okay, around about $21,000 or whatever. Okay, that's the low volume node below it, and we do have a naked point of control at $22,800, yet another level of confluence. Okay, so you've got the simple moving average. We've got this consolidation area there from way back into December 2020. Okay, so we've got this consolidation area, and the naked point of control, which is also the point of control of this range, is very close to the low at around about $22,800. So this is as good as any area to be a little bit more bullish, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, if we lose this level, then of course price is going to travel very quickly through this gap here. This is like hardly any volume there, as you can see, right? And so if it travels through there and gets acceptance below this level, which is around about 19,800, then I expect the price to just start ranging inside of this little rectangle here, something like that. Okay, and that means that we revisit this naked point of control at $18,300. Okay, potentially even lower to 15,800. But let's just say that this is a little bit bigger of a consolidation and a bit bigger of a high volume cluster. So we could potentially find a little bit of support there, but I do think that we should find some support here, especially as we've just noted on the 30-minute chart that we've tested the high volume cluster, sorry, the edge of this high volume cluster, the top edge if you like, and we've already been rejected from the top. So we've definitely established resistance. Now we need to establish support, and I think support will be around about here where these low volume nodes are, around about 22,300, maybe even somewhere a little bit lower, 22,000 or just close by. Okay, so that's basically what we're seeing on the volume profiles. On the daily profile, in terms of naked points of control, we've got too many. Okay, so we've got another one here around about 23,180. Okay, and then the next one is way down below at $20,700. But you can see that we've got a little bit of a gap there. Okay, which is basically the gap in between the two balance areas. So we'll just have to wait and see, okay, if we actually go a little bit lower or not. But again, you can see that the big cluster of naked points of control starts at 18,371. We could potentially see a wick all the way down to this one at 20,600, but we'll just have to wait and see. First of all, if we were to see a wick down to here, is perhaps a result of a little bit of consolidation and engineering, liquidity engineering, where everybody starts putting their stops below the consolidation. Now that would be a good indicator that we could perhaps wick down below and then move back up again. But we'll just have to wait and see, okay? But you can see this is really, really bearish price action. I mean, we had a nice little range there, and we eventually lost that range, and we've proceeded with quite a lot of acceleration again because of that low volume on the profile. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's no point of doing the market profile here or the daily market profile. You can see that basically we're just kind of like we're just testing the lows and continuing to seek that liquidity down below. We've left the point of control is around about $25,200 at the moment. Okay, so a little bit higher for the time-based point of control. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really significant to say right now other than the fact that we have entered a new area of balance, potentially. Okay, so with that in mind, let's move out of Bitcoin, and I think that makes it pretty clear where we are, right? So we're looking at this area here. So we'll just have to wait and see if we can range here for a while. And like I was saying before, with that naked point of control, is if we're consolidating here, then a lot of people are going to put their stops just below that area. And of course, if we are to move up, what usually tends to happen is that we see a wick to the downside and then it moved back up again. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see if that's how it's going to play out or not. Okay, you see that repeatedly, just like you've seen here. Okay, a little bit of consolidation, wick to the downside, and then boom, straight back up again. A little bit here, we had a little 3-day consolidation period. Let's put this on the 12 hours so it makes it a little bit clearer. So we had a little bit of consolidation, wick to the downside, the price moves up. Okay, here we had a little bit of consolidation, the price moves down, takes the wick, goes back up, and then rallies. Okay, and this just happens throughout usually. Okay, so here the wick was a bit bigger, we had consolidation here, but look at this, the price went below it, deviated, went back above, and then it rallied. Okay, so this is obviously on a higher time frame, but yeah, so there we are. I think this is basically where we are with Bitcoin right now. We are potentially finding an area of support, and we'll just have to wait and see if $21,500, $22,000 will hold as support. Okay, so like I said, we'll have to wait and see what happens here, and if we do find indeed support around about 22,500, that would be great. Yeah, and then we can just firm up balance. We've confirmed that this is indeed resistance, this would be balance, and then we just kind of range in between there somewhere like that. All right, so we'll just have to wait and see how that plans out. So moving on, let's go on to Ethereum and just see how Ethereum is faring. So we start here with the 3-day chart, and I'm just going to take the VWAPs off. And basically, if you guys are new here, I'm just going to explain this again. I've got these rectangles here. They're just basically just these high volume clusters. Okay, so I've got these high volume clusters highlighted as little rectangles, if you like, just to make it easier to visualize on the chart where the volume areas are and where the edges are as well for those volume areas. So like I said, once we've entered this volume, once we entered this volume area here, the purple line, we tested the edge of that. We confirmed that this was indeed resistance, and we kind of like carried on. And I said that, the area that I would be looking for support is around about $1,500, right? Previous area of support, low volume area, all the reasons to bounce there. It didn't bounce. Okay, so actually the price was looking really, really heavy, and as a result of the Nasdaq and the S&P dumping, then it dragged Bitcoin down with it, and of course when Bitcoin dumps, it drags Ethereum down with it, regardless of the technical analysis. So the area we were looking for consolidation is very similar to the area that we're looking for on Bitcoin. So right now it does look like $1,500, even though it doesn't look like it's been tested yet. We'll have a look at the lower time frames, but it does look like $1,500 will now be resistance, and potentially $950 or $1,000, if you like, it could be support. Okay, you can see this is a very low volume area here between $800 and $1,000, and so potentially we could see a little bit of support here, especially if Bitcoin starts going sideways now. All right, so we'll just have to test, we'll have to look at that and test that and see if that actually plays out. So we've basically entered a new volume area, and therefore this now is resistance, and this down here should be support. Okay, and so the range would be somewhere in there like that. That's quite ugly. So I want to have a look at the higher time frames, lower time frames, sorry, and just see if we test it. Okay, so basically this is the purple rectangle. We've been ranging for quite some time now, right? And like I said, once we've entered it, we've tested the previous balance area, which is the green rectangle, and we got rejected there quite a few times. Okay, eventually we traveled down, we carried on sideways, but I did say that we were on our way to $1,500, which is down here, and of course that's exactly what we did. We came down to $1,500. All right, once we got that area, we didn't get the bounce that we expected because of everything else that was going on in the markets. So what happens? The price comes and tests the next balance area, which is this new rectangle here, right? It tests that area there, gets a little bounce, which is the first reaction, but then it get rejected from the previous balance area, from this balance area here. Now we got rejected there, so as a result of that, we go and retest the area below, and now we find acceptance. Okay, and the price is much heavier, right? The only thing is we have not tested that 1430 level. Okay, so potentially on a little bounce, if Bitcoin decides to have a little bounce here, or even if we go all the way down here to the bottom, around about $950, right, and then we go all the way back up again, then I do expect this level to be resistance. There is a strong chance that actually we reverse here, because Bitcoin is now in a balance area, so we could reverse at any point, but I do expect this to be a very, very good area for a short, because we've not tested it yet. So at first tap it should act as resistance. If not this one, then most definitely this one here, okay, because this one's already been tested and determined that it is resistance. So like I said, even if the price goes all the way, like, so I'll try that again, price goes all the way back up here again, do not get thinking that we're somehow going back to the moon again. I mean, potentially we could even go as high as this, as $1,500, but I do expect to find resistance here, and particularly here, okay, as it is the first test. And I do expect the price to just carry on down and go all the way down to $1,000, $950, or something like that. Okay, so that's basically what I'm seeing on the lower time frames. And this is the 4-hour chart. Okay, so again, you know, just to sort of like make it very clear, you can see that this is a high volume cluster here, and as such we've got another balance area just below us. Okay, so let me just delete that brush mark there. So you can see here we've got balance area and price, kind of like the volume profile kind of tapers off here. Okay, so we could potentially even see the price come as low as $800, $750 here, and test the edge of this cluster here, right? So then we'll have to wait and see, do we get a bounce and accept it back inside of the red range, or does it do the same thing that it did just above us there, where it goes and tests that, and then it gets rejected and we get acceptance back below? Well, I don't know. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. But like I said, if Bitcoin is indeed to find support at where we are right now, then I do think that we've got a very good chance to find a range down here, somewhere between $1,500 and $1,000. Okay, or you know, it could be as low as $800 and potentially $1,500. Okay, rather than the 14. All right, so that's basically what we're seeing right now for Ethereum on the higher time frame. There's not really any point of putting the VWAPs on, and I mean, we could try that. Just take the balance areas off. So interesting, right? So basically the second standard deviation of the 2021 VWAP, which is basically this level down here, right? So this is the 2021 VWAP. This is the value area low, or the first standard deviation. This is the second standard deviation. Well, where is it sitting? Exactly at $800. So if I was to put those balance areas on again, look at that, right on the edge of this volume cluster here, of the green volume cluster. So that could potentially be the area that you will be buying Ethereum at the best possible price. But like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just telling you that there are areas of confluence here for trading, basically. Okay, but either way, we're definitely on our way down to around about $1,000, because like I said, once we've entered a balance area, we tend to test both sides of it to firm up balance. Okay, so the question is, will we bounce here at $950, or will we go all the way down to $800 to find that support? That's the real question. Okay, so that's Ethereum versus USD. Again, there's hardly any point of me looking at Ethereum on the volume profile, but I will, just because I can. Okay, and actually on the daily volume profile, there's not really another naked point of control all the way down at $769. So again, right about that $800 mark, there's a naked point of control there, but there's hardly anything there in terms of naked points of control or anomalies. So $800 looking very, very attractive for Ethereum if we do indeed carry on dumping. Okay, so that could potentially be the best price that you'll buy Ethereum this year, but you know, you never know, it could go a little bit lower. So like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but just keep in mind that these levels are confluent and they're kind of it's all pointing in this kind of direction, right? So $1,000 or potentially even a little bit lower, around about $800 mark. All right, so that's Ethereum versus USD. Let's move on to Ethereum versus BTC. And we start here with the 3-day chart. Okay, so again, let me just take the VWAPs off. In fact, I'll go over the VWAPs first. Okay, so I had basically the 3 circles there. This was the circle here was resistance, which is basically where the developing years VWAP is standing in. which has confluence with the 2021 value area high, and it also has confluence with this trend line that we've had here since June 2021, right? So this was resistance. This here was potentially an area of support, which is the 2021 VWAP close, and it's also an area of low volume, right? So I was looking at that for support, but the price went straight through it. Okay, so the next level of logical support is the value area low of the 2021 VWAP, right? Which also has perfect confluence with the 2020 value area high, right? So this area here also has the edge of a high volume cluster. We've got a couple there, right? But you know, so that's a little bit of confluence there. So we could see Ethereum losing momentum here. And like I said to you guys like last week, if you look back on the Friday's technical analysis update, this was a large liquid move to the upside, right? You can see this is large candles with hardly any sort of like with any tech back. You know, it just went up and up and up and up. It didn't retest the levels below. It didn't do this kind of movement here where it retests the areas of liquidity below. So large liquid moves tend to get retraced most of the time, and so it does look like we're well on our way to retracing this whole thing and coming all the way back to base here, okay, which is basically around about this area here, right? So this is potentially where Ethereum BTC could be heading. Of course I could be wrong, and we could find a little bit of support here, right, which is around about 45,000 sats, and I think I've put some lines there as well, right? There we go. All right, so we potentially see a little bit of support here around about 45,000 sats, and maybe even a little bit lower around about 36. The reason I highlighted those at 45,000 sats is that this was a previous area of resistance here. Look, see, resistance came back below, and then we rallied, right? You can see that also in terms of like the volume profile here. There we go. So perhaps this is better visualized on the weekly. You can see that here is basically just right on the edge of this high volume cluster here, right? There's a high volume cluster here, and that's right on the edge there. With the price could accelerate there, all right? It could accelerate down, but you can see it's right on the edge here. So let me just delete that little scribble there. So like I said, this area here, around about 45,000 sats, could potentially be a decent area of support, okay? Like I said, we've had resistance there before, resistance yet again. We accelerated above it, and it's largely untested. We've not tested it as support. So $45,000 could indeed be, sorry, 45,000 sats could indeed be an area of support. If we go a little bit lower, then we've also got 36,000 sats, and then of course, we've got much lower prices. But for now, I think that, you know, these levels are plenty enough, especially as we start tapping into this liquidity here, to the high volume clusters, okay? So I think that's basically where we're heading right now on Ethereum versus BTC. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the DeFi coins. And we start with FODL. And basically the coins, I was asked this the other day, why do you only cover these coins? Why do you not cover things like Curve and other DeFi coins? Well, the reason for that is because this is for FODL and for the FODL group, and I'm just basically charting all of the trading pairs that are available on the FODL platform. If you don't know what FODL is a completely 100% decentralized leverage trading platform where you can actually trade your assets without ever putting your money in any exchange. So you can trade straight from your wallet, right? So not your keys, not your coins, that's the motto. And basically you can just trade straight from your wallet without putting the money in any sort of exchange and not having to trust anyone. But anyway, getting that out of the way, let's start with FODL versus USDT, which is FODL versus Tether. Start here on the daily chart, and you know, I expect real blood here on these alts, and of course that's exactly what we're seeing. So we can just get rid of all of these brush marks now, as we're not going to be ranging sideways anymore, I don't think. So you can see some real blood here, and you know, price was comfortably sitting at this support here, but as a result of the dump we kind of went a little bit lower. We're now around about 5, so we're just below 5 cents here. We're about 4.68. So I do expect 5 cents to potentially be a little bit of resistance, but ultimately this level here will be the level of resistance that you want to be looking for, as it was previous support. Okay, so this level here should be resistance, and this next level of support is just one big round number again, right? And so potentially we could see a range forming here like this, with the halfway line as maybe dividing this into two small ranges. Okay, so we'll just have to, it depends on the strength of the market, and we'll just have to observe what price does. Okay, so we're looking at around about 4 cents as support right now, and 6 cents, potentially even 5 cents as resistance. Okay, so that's FODL versus USDT on the daily chart. Let's move on to FODL versus USDC. So it's FODL versus USDC on sushiswap. And you can see here that we basically lost all of those levels of support. And again, I'm just going to highlight this again. I'm doing technical analysis on these pairs is a little bit pointless if the price is just, it's okay if the price is going sideways on Bitcoin, but everything depends on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the big barometer, right? If Bitcoin dumps, all these coins will dump. If Bitcoin pumps, most of these coins will pump as well. Not always, but some of them do. So just bear that in mind, right? That all this technical analysis and these levels of support can be very easily violated if Bitcoin decides to go to the downside. Okay. So again, we're just looking, there's no previous price action, so there's no frame of reference. I'm just looking at big round numbers, okay? And as such, we're looking for example, this one here, 4 cents. Looking at this level now as resistance, so I'm going to put that as red. Potentially this one here as red as well. This one actually, I'm going to leave that as orange because there's hardly anything there. So 4 cents, and then 3 cents as potentially a level of support, and then I don't think we're going to go that low, but there you go, 2 cents as well as the next level of support. Okay, so we're basically just looking at big round numbers. Like I said to you guys before, this is a large liquid move. If we do manage to break above this resistance here, okay, so I expect the range to be formed here somewhere like that, right? However, if we do break above that resistance, you can see that the price travel very quickly all the way down from there with the previous level of support. So I think that, again, the road to 14 cents would not be that difficult, okay? Especially with these larger liquid moves to the downside, okay? So I think the price would retrace that very, very easily. So again, just to recap, this is resistance, this is support until proven otherwise, okay? We could potentially see a little bit of an inflection point here in the middle, around about 5 cents, because it is a big round number. But ultimately, that's what I'm expecting to see, is somewhere between 6 cents and 4 cents on FODL versus USDC. Moving on to FODL versus ETH, wrapped ETH. Interestingly enough, obviously, ETH had a really bad time, so FODL holding up a little bit better than Ethereum. And we've seen a little wick to the upside here that actually couldn't close above any of this range. So we're kind of still inside the same area. We're still inside of that range there, right? So potentially if we find support here, that we could still be ranging inside of here, creating a new volume cluster there. If, however, we do break above this level of resistance, then the next range would be somewhere up here, and we're doing something like that. Okay, I do expect this level here to be strong resistance. No, I beg your pardon, it's not that one. It's that one there. That's the level that I expect big resistance, as it was a previous level of support, and we have confirmed it as resistance already, right? So, but this was support here as well. Okay, so anyway, this is basically the ranges that you'd be looking for at the moment, right? If we break below this line here, which could potentially be support, let me just put this as an orange line here. This could potentially be support. If we do stay above that, then we trade on the range above. If we break below, then this is the next level of support. And again, just a big round number, around about 300,000 way. Moving on to BNB versus USD. So this is Binance coin. So we fell out of the previous range that we were in, which was basically where that rectangle was. So I'm just going to delete that. And you can see that this is basically the 2021 view up here, this blue line here, this faint blue line that you see that was acting as support, right? So the price accelerated down. Where did we bounce before? It was bounced on this little $200 line, right? $207 to be precise. So I do expect the price to find a little bit of support there as well. Okay, so if we find support there, the most likely place that we'll find resistance is around about the previous level of support, which is around about $287. So I do expect the price to kind of range between this level and this level moving forward. Okay, so support at $207, $200, something like that, and $280, $285 as resistance for Binance versus USD. Binance versus BTC, we're still pretty much kind of like par with Bitcoin. So let me just delete some of these lines just because it's all becoming a little bit confusing here. So again, we're inside of this gray area. Okay, so this is support until proven otherwise. This here is resistance until proven otherwise, and there is a midpoint equilibrium, if you like, where we've got a couple of low volume nodes that could cause a little bit of resistance. As you can see, there's also a yearly VWAP right there, right? So potentially we could see a little range here. If, however, we do break above that, then we could potentially see a little mini range there. But overall, this is the whole range, okay? The whole gray box you see in here, okay? So with this being the highs and this here being the lows. Moving on to Binance versus ETH. So BNB looking a lot better than Ethereum, of course. So I'm just going to delete some of these scribbles because they're a little bit there we go. Okay, so this here was a previous level of resistance. Okay, this here was a previous level of support. We were on our way there, but of course Bitcoin dumped so much, Ethereum dumped so much more than Binance that on this chart, Binance looks like it's going up. Well, it is going up compared to Ethereum. So what does that mean? So this previous level of resistance could now potentially be support. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see if that holds as support. Okay, so if that holds as support, then basically this here is the next level of resistance. This would hold as support, and the price will kind of range in between these 2 points. Okay, depending on what happens. Of course, if Ethereum starts to go on a rip to the upside and Binance coin doesn't, then of course this will start going down, right? If it goes down below this line here, then the next level of ranging level, if you like, is between these 2 points here, as you can see, right? In fact, you could even argue this is a ledge here, but I'm looking at this yearly VWAP as potential support, but you could even argue that it goes much deeper, and in fact it goes all the way down to this level here. Okay, so just bear that in mind, right? So you can see here this previous level, you know, we've been ranging. This is one big range here, right? But it's kind of subdivided. So we've got a little range here, then we've got a little range above, and then we break above, we got a range here as well. The price travels very quickly through here because there is a tapering volume cluster there, which means that the price doesn't like to stay there for very long. And of course we've got 3 little mini ranges inside of the whole thing, but we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But yeah, that's basically how we're seeing it right now. It does look like we're on our way to round about 2000 way. Okay, so 2000 way as resistance, 1690 way as support. If we break below support, then this will be the next level of support. Okay, so that's Binance versus ETH. As expected, in most of these coins are going to be looking a little bit like this. So let's just delete this range because price is not ranging anymore. Alright, so this previous level here did not hold as support, so I'm just going to delete that one. Although this here did hold as support, so I'm just going to change that to resistance now, red. And so now we're kind of like, look how we're right on the edge of this second standard deviation of the developing years VWAP, right? You guys can see that there, right? That's exactly where we're at right now. Okay, so we could potentially see a deviation to the downside and just touch this level of resistance, of support here around about $53. But it does look like it wants to hold there. So we could see a little bit of a range forming here, something like this, right? And if we break back above, then of course we go back to that range that we were in. If we break below that and 50 doesn't hold, then the next level of support should be around about $40. Okay, And if that doesn't hold, then perhaps 30. Although there is a high volume cluster there, and there is already a little bit of consolidation there. I don't know why there isn't a line at 30. I think that was perhaps that line that I've just deleted. It got moved by accident. But yeah, there we go. Something like that. Okay, so if we lose this level of support here, then we could potentially go all the way down here, maybe even lower. But we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, break above this level of resistance, and I think it's up to this one next to be resistance, and this level will turn into support. So that's AAVE versus USD, AAVE versus BTC, and not quite as messy as the last one, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. I'm just going to change that to orange now. And we could see actually this level here will definitely be resistance because it's a low volume area, but potentially this area here, it's not really doing much. So I'm actually going to move this like this. I'm going to delete all of these lines in light of what's going on here. Okay, so I potentially see this here acting as support, as it is the 2021 second standard deviation of the VWAP. Okay, so we could potentially see a little range here forming. I'm just going to make that bigger, just bear with me a second. So we could see a little range forming here, something like that, right? If we break below it, then potentially go to this next level here. If we break above it, then this here will be a very strong level of resistance, as it is the year's VWAP, and it's also a low volume node there. Okay, so then we could see a little range forming up there if we do indeed break above this level here. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. So that's AAVE versus BTC. And not holding too bad. I mean, yes, there was a dump there, but nothing really significant. AAVE versus ETH, again, you know, ETH had such a bad time that I think AAVE is not looking too bad compared to it. So we're still very much inside of this range here. This level here should be support. This level here is strong resistance. As you can see here is the yearly VWAP. We kind of deviated above, but we fell straight back inside it again. So I do expect this level to be resistance and this level to be support for now. Compound versus USD. Let's move on and take all of these brush marks off. Okay. So here we are. Are we actually at all-time lows? I think we are. Perhaps I should look at Dex screen and start looking at these charts and see if there's any more historical data. But we've basically lost that $40 level. Okay, so now you'd be looking at around about $30. Previous price action is non-existent, so you just have to look at big round numbers such as $25, $30, $20, and so on. Okay, so let's just wait and see how it all plans out. But I do expect this level, this one here, definitely as resistance. This one potentially as resistance. Okay, again, largely could move to the downside, so I'm not really too keen on trading those as strong resistance, because a strong impulse will break straight through. However, this level of support here will indeed be strong resistance. So I'm looking at this one here as resistance and this one here as support. These could indeed be resistance here, this one and this one, but I'm not entirely sure because, like I said, the price is traveling too quickly through there. We need a little bit more price action to see if they do indeed act as resistance or not. Okay, so moving on to compound versus BTC, we've lost the lower level there. Okay, so potentially so potentially this level here now is resistance. Okay, I'm going to just put it as orange because again there's not enough price action to confirm that, and we're just looking at big round numbers again, right? So this could, if we reclaim this, of course, then this here will still be resistance and this will now be support. However, I do think that this here is now the new range, if you like. Okay, like I said, if we break above this level here, then it will do something like this, and this will be the new range here, somewhere like that. Okay, so that's compound versus BTC, and again, like I'm just looking at higher time frames on the daily chart, right? We've only just kind of come below it. So we could reclaim this again and just show it as a deviation. However, you can see that this was a previous level of support. These were previous level of support, and that's why they're all red lines, because it's lines of resistance. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, again, this is not enough for me to judge this as a resistance, because it's only just one little move to the downside. Moving on to compound versus ETH. And it looks like we've lost that level as well, so let's just delete all of this crap. And I'm going to use this level and put it as an orange line here. Okay. And so the next range should be that this is resistance and this here is support, and do something like this. Okay. Of course, if we break back above it, then the range will be here, and this will be the next level of resistance, and this previous level here, this orange line, would now be support. But we'll just have to wait and see until there's evidence of that. For now, this definitely looks like the range that we're going to be trading in. As you can see here, the price is below it. Okay, so that's compound versus ETH. Let's move on to BAT versus USD. This is basic attention token. Like I said, I expect all of these coins to be, falling out of their range. So there we are. So another range, impulse range, remember? So now we're out of the range. And it does look like these levels now should be, this one should definitely be resistance. I'm going to delete that. And this level here could potentially be resistance. So I'm just going to put that as orange and this one here as support. Okay, so this is support and this here should be resistance, and as such, I expect a little range to form here like this. Okay, of course, if we break above this one here, then this is an important level of resistance here, right, as it was previous support for so long. Okay, so 31 cents as resistance, potentially 35 cents as the real strong resistance, the real resistance if you like. But 30 cents, 31 cents could be the real resistance, okay? And we're looking at 25 cents for support. Moving on to BAT versus BTC. Okay, so I beg your pardon, I did lose that line there for some reason. I'll delete the line there, doesn't matter, I'll make another one. Okay, I'm going to put that one as resistance, as it was a previous level of support, right? Delete that rectangle, and as you can imagine, this here will be the next level of resistance, this here will be the next level of support. Break above this one and we're back inside of this range here, which would mean that this is resistance. If we break below it, then this here will be the next level of support, and so this will become resistance again. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see, but at the moment it does look like we want to be in between this range here, inside of this range here. Okay, so that's BAT versus Bitcoin. Moving on to BAT versus ETH, and again the reason for this is because ETH is looking so weak compared to most of these coins. So I'd highlighted here that the previous level of support is confirmed as resistance, and here we are right now knocking at resistance. Okay, so let's just delete all of those lines then, right? And you can see that we've got two little ranges here, so basically one big range if you like, divided in two with an imbalance in the middle. Okay, and that's exactly where the price is kind of like failing to get acceptance above. Right, so let's just have a look here at the this is the value area low. God damn it. So you can see here, this is basically the developing years VWAP. This is the value area high. This is the value area low here. And that's basically exactly where we're finding resistance, which also has confluence, and it probably explains why there is a little low volume node right at that level there. Okay, low volume area here. So this is resistance to prove it otherwise. So we're either going to be ranging down below here, like this, right? Or we're going to be ranging on the whole, the upper level, if you like. we'll just have to wait and see how it happens. If it does break above this level here of resistance, you can see that we've entered the new volume cluster here, and so this will be the next level of resistance. So then this will be the next big range, somewhere like that. Okay, if we break below the level of support, then I think that we could potentially find a little support here, there, like this, right, and put that as green. As you can see, it's a low volume node, and actually the price has already kind of responded there, just kind of did something like this, and we bounced from there, right? So this could potentially be an area of support there. So I might have deleted that by mistake. I don't know how I missed that, but anyway, so that's where we are right now. We're inside of this purple rectangle here, okay, with the middle line as being resistance. Link versus USD. Now Link was looking really promising last week. We kind of rallied a little bit out of the range, but here we are. It just kind of collapsed under the pressure. So let's just take out this rectangle and just see where we are. So this level here is definitely resistance now. So I'm going to leave that as such. Maybe even move it slightly, put it a little bit like this. Okay, and this previous level, which is a level of support, should now be resistance. However, it's not determined yet because this is quite a large move, right? And this was support, support, and we went straight through that. So the range that I would expect now from Link versus USD is $5 as support and $6.60 as resistance. Okay, break below it, then of course we go to around about $3.64. And if we break above it, then potentially we could see $8, maybe even $9. Okay, or even 10, but you know, 8, 9, and 10, 3 levels of resistance on the way up. Okay, so that's Link versus USD. Link versus BTC. Let me just delete some of these lines. You can see they become less and less relevant. We did break above this level here. This was a previous level of resistance, turned to support, but of course it didn't hold as support at all, right? So let's just so here we are. So basically I'm looking at this here as the new range again, and we'll be ranging in between these two levels. Break below that, this is the next level of support. Break above that, then this here should be ultimately the last level of resistance, okay, until we get back inside of this range here. So we'll just have to wait and see if we can do that. So that's Link versus BTC. Link versus ETH is probably pumping. Oh yeah, look at that. So let's just delete some of these levels. Look at that. Where does it go to? Previous level. In fact, I'm just gonna do that. Delete that one. Just gonna move that one slightly like this. Okay. And the reason for that is because, as you can see here, it's previous level of resistance here. Resistance, resistance, resistance. We break above it, and then we go above it and confirm this as support. However, we did range here, so there's still 3 distinct ranges there. Where did we actually fail to get acceptance above? It's basically this yearly VWAP, right? The blue line, as you know. So that's resistance until proven otherwise. We're now below this low volume area here, so that's resistance as well. And we've kind of reclaimed this level here of support. So I'm just going to leave that as it is, because we could be consolidating like we did here. Could be consolidating inside of here, right? With this previous area of low volume as now support. So as such, I do expect the price to be doing something like this. This here as a range, okay? This should continue to be very strong resistance because it is the yearly VWAP. But if we do fall below, then I do expect the price to be ranging inside of here, like that. Okay? Break above it, like I said, this is resistance, and below this should be support. Moving on to Uni versus USD. This level here should now be resistance, and it's the same thing basically, right? So this is support, this is resistance, and therefore price should be ranging inside of there. Break below it, we go to the next level. Break above it, we go to the next level of resistance. That's uni versus USD, and this is, we're looking at the next level of support as $3 and $4.60 or $4.50 as the next level of resistance. Uni versus BTC, again, we've fallen out of that range, so let's just delete all of that. This should now be resistance, the previous level of support, right? And as such, this will be resistance, this will be support. This is the next level of support, this here is the next level of resistance. Okay, uni versus ETH, we're still very much inside of that range, right? So as you can see, we're basically inside of this blue rectangle here, right? Break above it, we go to the next level of resistance. Break below it, we go to the next level of support. You can see we're inside of this little squiggly line here, which is basically the value area low of the developing year VWAP, the 2022 VWAP. So that should hold a strong support, and indeed it has, right? So that's an important thing to consider. However, like I said, if we can carry on knocking at resistance, we're more likely to break to the upside than we are to the downside. But there is strong resistance above. Like I said, this was a previous area of support here. That's why it's resistance. And this one here is even bigger, right? We were there for even longer. So I do expect this to be very strong resistance on the way up, okay? But in the meantime, we're just kind of ranging inside of this blue rectangle there. All right, so that's uni versus ETH, and I think that is it for all of the pairs on FODL. So let's just move on to Bitcoin and just see where we are right now. And I guess we could look at the 30-minute chart, and lo and behold, look at that, price is wanting to bounce here, right? So the next level of resistance is this level here. Let's just see if we can break above that. If we can break above that, then I think we've got a very good chance of holding this and entering back inside of this area of low volume, right? This area here of low volume. But I do expect that this top of this area here should now be resistance, okay? Like I said, if we do bounce here, the next level of resistance will be way up here, around about $28,600. All right, so don't get too excited if we do indeed start going up and up and up, okay? The only reason to get excited is if we do indeed, if we do bounce from here, if we break above, if we break back inside of this range here, right? So let's say that the price does this, gets up to here, breaks above it, confirms it as support. Well, that's definitely a long position, and you'll be targeting the top of the range, okay? But like I said, I need to see confirmation of that. This is a previous level of support, and it's been largely untested. So I think the first reaction when we get to here is that this is indeed a short position, and we're going to go much lower again. Okay, that's just my view on it. So like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but like I said, this was a brutal correction, so I hope you guys are all right and you haven't lost too much money. But I will have another technical analysis update for you guys on Wednesday. In the meantime, trade smart and protect your capital and all of those good things, and join us in the FODL Discord group. It's free if you need any trading help, or if you just want to be part of a trading community. So thank you very much for watching. Jay, always great to have you here, mate. Thanks so much for attending, and I'll speak to you guys